JP.
Right, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to James Redmond TV and welcome to another live stream. And I thought I'd start doing some Klopp press conference reactions because I feel like that people can misconstrue the words that Klopp say, or they come out and they say he said something else even though it was this. And it adds a little bit more context to the current situation. So why not? I'm doing this on a full-time basis now, so I've got to get more content out there. And I feel like it's still quality content because it's an interesting time. He talked about the transfer window. He mentions about the signing of Endo. And the reason why that's important is because we want to know what Endo is. Is he, some people suggested a Milner replacement. Some people suggested Fabinho. And then now we've got more clarity because of his own words, which is always productive. But do smash a like coming into the stream. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're enjoying the content, let me know. If it's too much, then say, James, I'm seeing too much of you, so you need to just do what, all right? Big up to everyone in the chat already as well. I am aiming to say hello to you all in due course, and everyone who supports the channel, big up to your damn selves. But first and foremost, I suppose, chat, would you rather speak about the Endo news first, or would you rather speak about what Klopp spoke about in the transfer window, or on the transfer window specifically? Because I'll be honest, I was most intrigued to see what he was going to say regarding the transfer window. And James Pearce usually quotes Jurgen Klopp, so I've been able to actually have a look and see the direct quotes. I watched the press conference myself, but luckily I didn't have to write them down myself because there'd have been a long day for you. That'd have been a long day. So you just want to mention, yeah, I feel like it's a mix. We're going to be speaking about both Endo and Jurgen Klopp anyway, but let me just share my screen so you guys can see what I'm going to bloody see, all right? So first and foremost, boom. Let me just get that on the screen that I want it on as well. And then we'll be happy days and good to go. By the way, there's also a preview on the channel at the moment, and there's also the official announcement for Enzo joining the club. So make sure that you do go and check that out, and do appreciate the support on the channel the past few days. Chat, let me know if you can see that all okay. That would be grand. But yeah, Jurgen Klopp says this: the past week was tricky. It was a tricky one, but when you have a problem, you either stick to the problem or you find a solution. He also said you speak to the player's agent. Some things work out, some things don't. And that's obviously regarding previous deals falling through as well. Klopp on further business. So the window is still open. Until then, pretty much everything can happen. On the ongoing side, nothing will happen incoming. There's still time. So let's have a look. So he's not confirming any deals to be done anytime soon. And he's also not actually going out there on the front line saying, yeah, we're going to get another CDM or we're going to get this and that. But a few of the notes that I noted down as well, because obviously he said more words than just that, but that's just to give you a little bit of a briefly breakdown. He mentions about, let me just get me back on full screen there. Jeez Louise on a drumstick, mate. Yeah, he mentions about how he was asked a question. This was interesting for me, chat. He was asked a question about, is it harder to attract players? So it was asked by, I don't know who it was asked by, I'll be honest with you, but I thought it was an interesting question because I feel like that's one we all want to ask. You know, not that it's a reason to go out and miss out on targets, but I want to see what he says in response to it. Will he mention the ownership, which obviously we knew he wouldn't? Will he reference them? Will he reference the situation? So when asked that question, he said no, but the market is more difficult. So he's not saying it's anything to do with the club. He's saying because the market is more complicated, and he referenced things like teams in the Premier League being able to spend. He referenced Saudi and the fact that they've been now more involved in the market, therefore limiting the players who we can buy, as I'm sure what he's trying to imply there. The only problem I have there is, okay, because he referenced Neymar, and I'm thinking, what does Neymar going to Saudi have to do with the business that we get done? So if we miss out on option 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like we have done, how come the correlation of the players, so not just Neymar, but the players who have gone to Saudi in general, chat, why does that correlate to our players and our targets? You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense to you guys? Because here's the score. Who's went to Saudi that we could have bought? You know what I mean? Like, there was that dude from Roma. I think it was Ibanez who went from Roma to Saudi, but he was available for a long, long time. So the players were still available. And maybe we could have tempted the players before Saudi got in there. But as we acted too slow, that's what's now limited the progress of actually getting these players over the line. So although I can admit there's more competition, so Saudi are now in for players, and there's more teams who are financially superior to us in the Premier League, that to me is him saying like, okay, that's why we're finding it more difficult to get transfers in, which for me, I just struggle with that. You know what I'm saying? James, I think personally, Klopp was a sugarcoating like with the Retardo signing. He wanted him before this, and his answers and body language shows we are done in the window, which is a scary thought. Now, you see, this is what I was thinking, and he was using phrases and terms that I don't like to be associated with our football club because I feel like this is coming from somewhere. I'm not one to take language out of context because the words sound bad. The context, I don't think he meant it in that way. But he did say that as a normal club, this is his words. He says, as a normal club, it is hard to keep up with other teams. Now, I don't like that terminology, normal club. You know what I mean? Like, why is he coming out and saying we're a normal club? And then where do those standards and those expectations trickle down from? Because I know Jurgen Klopp is a winning manager. He has won before in the past. So why is a manager with such a winning pedigree previously as a sort of underdog? Why is he now coming out and saying that we're a normal club, chat? You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that terminology and I don't like that wording. We're not a normal club. We're the biggest club in the country, or at least we're one of the biggest clubs in the country by quite a comfortable distance. And then when you consider the fact that we're a European team, the most successful European team out the country, and then even what we've done in recent time under him, like, I don't understand why we can come out and say we're a normal club. I understand in the context. He's referencing the finances. He's referencing the fact that we can't attract players the same way other teams can attract players due to the financial incentive and stuff like that. But you understand where I'm struggling with? Klopp loves to be the underdog, James. That's right. And I think he has to be with the resources that's at his disposal. And he certainly plays that really well. And he's always, there's a reason why he turned down Bayern Munich back in the day. You know what I mean? There's a reason why he's turned down the Germany job multiple times, because that's more of a front center, right now I need to win every single year type job. And I think he likes a project, which is why recently he came out and said that he was excited because we've got so many more younger players. The only issue I have is that those standards of being a normal club on a resource basis comes from somewhere. Because now if you are a normal club, if those words remain true, we don't need to go and do beyond normal business. Chat WRL, we now know if you're saying we're a normal club and those words remain true, and even if you're speaking about it in a financial sense, not on the pitch, not the club size, you weren't referencing that, the financial sense, now that means we don't have to go the beyond normal standards to go out and get the players that we actually need. So Caicedo, for instance, that was a beyond normal thing that Liverpool did to go out and try and get Caicedo. Fair enough. But then what was stupid was the way that we went about it, not getting personal terms agreed, for instance, Lavia and stuff like that, leaving people allowed to be skeptical. Like, was we actually in for those players? Because how can you be incompetent enough to not even agree personal terms? And maybe they thought they were going to do a swoop on Caicedo, that if Chelsea can't go above 110 million, then it doesn't matter what Caicedo feels, he's going to choose us. That's where I sit there and I struggle, because now that means, okay, let's say we don't go out and get somebody else. Well, it matches with the expectation because we're only a normal club. And if we're going to talk about in the financial sense, well, we're a normal club, so we can't go out and get mega signings. So how sincere was the main target then? Because now we need to go out and get another main target. Or is it another Jude Bellingham situation where we go out and wait 12 months before we actually go and complete the signing? I think that's a really big problem. Sorry, the word's being taken out of context. I didn't see anything wrong with the presser. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. And that's why I included the context of what he was talking about. When he says he as a normal club, right? I know that he's not saying that we're a small club. I know that he's not saying that we're smaller than other teams. And I certainly know he's not saying about the success on the pitch because he's somebody who's won every trophy. What I do know he's talking about is in a resource sense. So the reason why we can't get Lavia, this is what I think he's implying. I can't say what he's definitely implying, but what I think he's implying is that he'll come out. We've just had the Lavia and Caicedo situation. We never got those players over the line. And that now leads to the pressure asking Jurgen Klopp, okay, well, why has it been so difficult? And what do you think the difference is about the transfer window? And he referenced about how it's harder now than in previous times to make signings. Why is that? It's not because we're a small club or a normal club, but on the resource basis, he's saying we've got normal standards, which now means for fans like me and you, we've now got to say, okay, well, Klopp's saying we're a normal club in terms of resources and finances, not in terms of the other aspects. So now if we don't go out and get more signings, that's okay. But he never said we weren't going to get more signings. He wasn't really asked that question because I'm sure the journalist knew that he probably wouldn't have got, or they probably wouldn't have got a definitive answer. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with this? Do you think that I've taken the words out of context and I'm looking too much into it? Because it didn't sound encouraging from me. James, I reckon he's indirectly telling us fans don't expect us to challenge this year for the league, guys, which I feel he is implies to us. I think that would be a big shame if Jurgen Klopp's already signed out of a title challenge idea. I disagree. I think Jurgen is actually got some part of him. Some people might call it the delusional side. Some people might call it the overly optimistic side or the blind faith in Jurgen Klopp, that he believes in the crop of players that he's got. And until he has no reason to believe them, so for instance, if we go 10 games where we're not winning games and we're nowhere near the top, well, after 10 games, he can now sit there and reevaluate and go, okay, well, now our ambition is just to get back into a European place. The reason why I think Jurgen is up for challenging is because he's always up for challenging. Like we say, he likes being the underdog. There's you can't be the underdog if you've got the best 11 in the Premier League. Do you get what I'm saying? And because we don't have this and a lot of people are doubting us, I think he'll thrive more off that. But the thing is, though, his motivation and his fuel will only relay onto the players so much. These players could be 100% motivated, but if they're not 100% of the quality in comparison to the best teams in the league, well, then it doesn't matter how much motivation they've got. Everton can have excessive motivation to stay in the Premier League, but it's still not a good achievement, even though they stayed in the Premier League. The same way for us, okay, it's a fine achievement getting back into top four, and it's fine to get back into Champions League, but realistically, we want to be competing. So if we fall below that standard, we're still not going to be happy, even though getting back into Champions League is probably best case scenario when you analyse the current circumstances. Does that make sense? Do you think Liverpool will go with a 4-3? The Bournemouth preview is out on the channel now, and I think now with Endo being officially announced, he has to be considered as a starter, Endo, the man from Japan. Don't think I've ever seen Klopp so happy about this Endo signing. Klopp believes in this boy heavy. I hope his debut this season is one to remember for Endo. Brother, I think it's we're going to go on to the words that he said about Endo. I was encouraged by it. James, but when he implies Endo to Milner, means he is a squad player, which means we will get another midfielder. Now, this is also important. It was important to analyse, was Endo the replacement for Milner or Fabinho? And it seemed we might have never got that answer until we signed, let's say if we sign a CDM, until we sign them. But he said the first thing he mentioned about Endo was that he's a late bloomer. So kind of referencing like a Jamie Vardy, Kante, bit different because Endo was 30 and when they burst on the scene, they were more mid-20s, later 20s. But Endo is someone who Klopp referenced, well, since he's been on the big screens and over the past couple of years, you can see how much he's maximised the opportunity. He's an opportunist. He's somebody who takes these chances not lightly. So now him joining Liverpool, does this now make him further increase the standards? Now, bear in mind, we've signed him on a long-term deal, so we rate his fitness. We rate the fact that he's not going to be just an option for the right here, right now, but he can be a utility man and a squad option for the foreseeable future, which is great. Great, because now we needed a James Milner replacement. This is why I've referenced or brought up the idea of signing Llorente from Atletico Madrid. This is why some people would like the idea of Kimmich. They bring that versatility. They bring that reliability of not just being available, but good players in each positions. Someone who can do a job everywhere. And that's why Jurgen wanted to keep James Milner for so long. He wanted to keep James Milner. Milner wanted to stay. The relationship they had was fantastic. I really wish Milner never left. So I don't think Endo has been on the radar, because he also said that Endo has been on his radar for a long time. I think if he kept Milner, we'd never see Endo. But I think if he had an idea Milner was going to go, then that was where it was like, well, we're going to need to get a replacement for this dude. And maybe it just fell into the circumstances. This guy was the best guy for the options out of who was assessed. Now, as this comment references as well, he mentioned James Milner as the sort of replacement Endo as the replacement for James Milner, which that means it implies he's not a starter and he's not going to start week in, week out. But then is he referencing James Milner, what he was towards the end of his career, or is he referencing James Milner when Jurgen Klopp first came in? Because when Jurgen Klopp first came in, Milner was starting the majority of the games. Am I wrong there, chat? Weren't he like a mainstay in the midfield for us at first? So, and then, of course, over time, he ended up playing left back, right back, and all these things. And I think when we try and diversify the formations and the tactics and all these things, you're seeing now a circumstance where we're playing 4 at the back, but then sometimes we'll play 3 at the back, and the shape is constantly changing, which I think a versatile player like Endo adheres more towards. So if he comes in and does, let's say if he's as reliable as Gini Wijnaldum, different types of players, but if he's got that reliability, Who's to say he won't become a mainstay? But the most important thing is results. And I think if Endo comes in, we get results and he's in the team, we might see a lot more of him than we think. But that means we miss out on a CDM most likely, or maybe even just the odd chance that we might miss out on a CDM, which I know a lot of people aren't going to accept. To be honest, James, before Klopp came in, we was always a mid-table team, and getting us into top four was a real expectation. I feel now we have fallen back to that stage, and we just have to accept it, a top four team. I've said this for years and got slandered for it as well, by the way, that FSG do just want to aim for top four. And you've got to analyse the financial incentive. What's the want? And why is it fine to want to get the Champions League opposed to the Premier League? Well, let's say you need to go out and build a Premier League winning team. So let's say Jude Bellingham's, Mbappe's. These guys, you're going to be spending combined 300 to 400 million to acquire these players, when the difference between finishing fourth and first is nowhere near that. So you're spending 300 to 400 million combined with the transfer fees, the wages, the agency fees, maybe even more than that. To not even still guarantee you win a Premier League. If we sign Jude and Kylian, we're never getting those, but I'm just saying in reference to this, it still doesn't even guarantee us to finish above City. It does not guarantee us it, chat, at all. In fact, it's ludicrous to think that it does, because every team's improving. And even though they're big names don't just equate to trophies. It just gives you the best possible chance. So why are we going to take such an exponential risk for a reward that isn't as exponential, whereas we can invest into the team to try and finish in top four, acquire the European revenue that you generate, the money that you get from the Premier League ad revenue deals, get this nice sponsorship because we're a huge club, and let's stay top four team. Jurgen Klopp's great for that. And he's proven to be great for that, because every season he's aimed for this. But I don't think Jurgen and the FSG owners sit there and go, let's finish top four this season. I think they just do it the way we do. So if I get a stream that gets 10,000 views, well, hopefully the next stream, if I want to go by improvement, let me now try and get 11,000 views, 12,000 views. But as long as we don't drop below 10,000 views, great. Because now that means I'm not going worse in a YouTube sense. My target to be at least hit or overachieved. And because there's great things that can be, if I'm a YouTuber who can get 10K a video every single day, fantastic. Because now I can make a YouTube channel a more full-time thing. I can make YouTube a more sustainable thing, especially if that viewership is guaranteed. And if that revenue is guaranteed from a European aspect, and if that excessive Nike revenue deal is in and stuff like that. Now, what's the further incentive to go and burn a bigger hole in your pocket that might not get you a bigger achievement than a European qualification? Chat, does that make sense? Is that a W or an L? Do you agree with me? And did the analogy make sense, or the comparison with YouTube? Apparently, Takore thought he was joining LFC this week. Something's happened there. I mean, I think things are happening behind the scenes to talk to the player. And I do think we will get a CDM. I am still predicting that we'll get a CDM. I don't think there was anything directly in that press conference that implies we weren't going to. But if you do take things out of context, then you can maybe think, okay, maybe Jurgen Klopp's chatting a bit of madness, chatting a bit of wham. And that means he's not going to go out, or Liverpool aren't going to go out and get the player that we need in that position. James, I love your analogies, bro. Lol, anytime. Your BAM link up for Munch My Treat. For Munch My Treat. Are you inviting me to a date there, Total Eclipse, my guy? Endo is the Milner replacement. Gravenberch is Hendo replacement, and Takore is Fabinho replacement. We ain't getting all three of them, my G. That was the news that I actually wanted to mention. We went. Apparently, there's people from the club who have went and met people in Munich to go and talk about Gravenberch. I don't know how true that is, and I haven't really looked too much into the sources, but Gravenberch is someone that's on the radar. But then, will he be the only option? If we get Gravenberch and a CDN, that's over-exceeded what I thought. But then I do think the more we keep speaking about number 8s, like centre midfielders, and then number 6s, the more I'm sitting there thinking, okay, then we're not getting a centre-back, are we, chat? Because Klopp's happy with Matip and Joe Gomez, and Joe Gomez has got a long-term deal. Nat Phillips is reliable enough. Joel Matip is someone he's a big fan of when available and when fit. I don't think he looks at it through the same lens. Like the way you could say Joel Matip's finished, I don't think Jurgen Klopp sits there and says Joel Matip is 100% definitively finished. I think he sits there and says Joel Matip, when available, can be a good backup centre-back. You've got to look at it through the lens of Jurgen Klopp and then say, okay, do I agree or disagree? And for me, I disagree with that. I don't think that Matip is good enough to be the backup centre-back, because I think Matip at his best is someone who plays consistent amount of games. So when we won the league, not when we won the league, the year we won the Champions League and got 97 points, he was instrumental. The season in the quadruple chasing season, literally ran through whole teams and was fantastic defensively. So that's where I'll sit there and say, I think now he looks a little bit slower. And I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea to start replacing him now. But if Matip, Gomez, Van Dijk and Konate remain as the four and Nat Phillips doesn't end up leaving, I don't think the club see a real incentive to go and buy a centre-back right here, right now. Even though we've just found out Inaccio's got a €60 million release clause. And let's say Decore, Inacio, and because Decore's been reported for less than 50 million. Inaccio's been reported as €60 million on a release clause, so that's about 50 to 55 million. I'd say 55. And then let's say we go out and get Gravenberg, who's been reported at €30 million, so about £25 million. In totality, you're only spending about not much more than what you offer for Caicedo for this player. Now you've got to include Endo because he was 19 mil, but I still think it's very achievable to go out and get two midfielders, which the club clearly wants, in my opinion, because we're still linked with Andre from Brazil, but people are touting that to be more of a January signing opposed to now. But if we want to get the players in right here, right now, well, then what's happening with that centre-back? But it's possible to get the centre-back, and it's now a year where that centre-back can bed in, and if he's not going to go right in above Virgil or Konate, he can at least learn off those. I think that's more productive, don't you, chat? By the way, smash those likes. We've got 600 people in the stream. And if you do want to see these press conference reactions more often, then just let me know. I'm here to do the content that you want to do. Do know as well, there's a preview on the channel of me doing a lineup prediction and a score prediction to the Bournemouth game. And also there's an announcement video on Wataru Endo, who is officially announced as a Liverpool player. I have no idea why Gomez got a long-term extension to his contract. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and defend it, to be honest. You guys know I like to do devil's avocado, but on that instance, I think that the reliability and also the quality of Joe Gomez post his injury should have been questioned more. And I'm surprised it weren't. Lavia saying he joined Chelsea for the history. Oh, please. Chat, did you see this? Did you see this with Lavia? Like, let's be honest, he could. Chelsea fans will have an argument, say recent history were better than yours, but overall history, I think the wording weren't great here when it came to it. Yeah, this was the quote in which Lavia said, "Get on this chat." It was quite funny because more of these align with Liverpool besides ambition. So he says, my feeling is that the project, the ambition, and the history were key factors. So he's not saying that the history was above Liverpool. First and foremost, he's not saying the history above Liverpool, but the history is still good enough for me to want to go. And then he mentioned the ambition and the project, which I think that the Chelsea project's quite uncertain. You don't know if they're going to change the team again in 12 months' time. But I do think it's certainly more ambitious than what we are. That can't even be questioned. Chelsea's ambition's elite, man. Like Todd Bowley's ambition is above anything else. Lavia is trolling. Nah, I don't think he's trying to say like it's above Liverpool, or I don't even think he's referencing Liverpool there. And guys, we did treat him like a side man. We literally dropped him like a baby on a doorstep. We saw Caicedo, we left him, and it was just one of those things. There is no excuse not to buy players. It's hard, in quotations. Is another way of saying there isn't a big boy making the decisions. It's kids fighting at the dinner. That's a great analogy, or a great reference there from Mike Dars. And Mike Dars, as we know, is a superhero on this channel. Yeah, bro, I 100% agree there. I 100% agree. I think you're bang on. Are you telling me Joe Gomez can play the 6 role? No, I never said that. I don't know where you're thinking this. He was twerking for us and he ditched them. Yeah, it was one of those things where we kind of did leave the relationship first. It was just when it became embarrassing was when we tried to go back into the relationship. We tried to analyse the field. We weren't so successful in the field. And then we went back to our misses. Inacio is the injury-prone player. Fair enough. If he's injury-prone, then I'm not going to speak much on that. I haven't looked at his injury record. James Fabrizio says surprising incoming for LFC. The GOAT knows something. Was this via his YouTube channel, chat? Or was this via his Twitter? Because when it is Twitter, it's more... You feel it's more official. I feel like he's got to make sentences that fill out 30 minutes on YouTube videos, kind of like the way most YouTubers do. So I'm not too sure. I'm not seeing anything on him mentioning about that. Wow, is Manchester United going to keep Johnny Evans? Johnny Evans saying, I'd like to stay. Well, you're keeping Harry Maguire, mate, so I don't think they're going to fucking sign you. Yeah, then this is even Fabrizio Romano mentioning Jurgen Klopp's thing regarding the quote around the transfer window. The transfer business is like that. You talk to people like agents and stuff, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. The window's open. Until then, pretty much everything can happen. From the outgoing side, nothing will happen. So what he's admitting there is nobody is getting sold, which kind of implies any doubt that we had on Nat Phillips being sold. It's now got to be done and dusted because the Leeds links have gone a lot more quiet, and he's admitting there's no more outs going out of the club. So now it's just about inflating the squad, which is great, but how much are we going to do it, and can we do it efficiently is the real question. I swear to God, if Gravenberch, some screens will be punched. Oh, are you saying if we sign Gravenberch, you're going to start punching screens? So don't you want Gravenberch? I think he's a fine player, but he's not my number one option. I'm not going to lie to you. What's the chance of Endo starting versus Bournemouth? I think it's very high. I think Jurgen Klopp also mentioned Curtis Jones. I don't know if he mentioned Curtis Jones, but there's rumours that Curtis Jones had an ankle injury. He did reference Thiago and Bajcetic and said they're just not quite ready to get back into the game yet, which is devastating because at least while we haven't got an out-and-out CDM, I think I would be intrigued to see friggin' Thiago, Sobbo and McAllister play against Bournemouth. Chat W or Ellie Ustown with that sexiness as well. I think that'd be a great shout. But yeah, so Thiago and Bajcetic aren't quite ready to play yet. That's the one problem from that standpoint. Everything else, I think... Fun fact, Jurgen has never won a league title without a Japanese player from David Ornstein. Boom! I saw that stat. I seen that stat. But yeah, I think Endo will probably get the nod because they're not available. And even though Klopp praised McAllister in the number 6 position, but you know what's making me doubt Endo starting though is that when does Jurgen Klopp ever just rush a player in? Even if he needs them, like he never rushed Robbo in, Fabinho in. I think he's probably more inclined to go with McAllister, who, based on his perception, seemed to have done well against Chelsea in the 6, which I agreed with Klopp's assessment. In possession, he was good, but out of possession isn't his strength. So, yeah, that didn't suit him as much. But he didn't feel McAllister was the problem that led to goals or anything. So, because he didn't see McAllister as a problem in that position, will he find Endo being the solution? Like, okay, he's been here for a day, literally completed his medicals 2 days ago. Don't even know if he's trained. He'll probably train with the team today if they are going to train. And that's the only philosophy or idea that he'll have on our system. So, yeah, I don't know if that's going to end up resulting in any Klopp thoughts regarding starting Endo. I think Klopp should go out. He is leading. He is the one leading the transfer window. I don't think he is. I don't think he is. I still need to see evidence and claims that support this. I don't dispute that he might have a bit more say or control than what he did, but it's not his fault that the Caicedo deal fell through, for instance. It's not his fault on how Liverpool mismanaged Lavia. And it quite clearly sounds like he's very particular with the transfer budget and that the club are only analysing certain targets. So yeah, we are also in for Gravenberch. This is a United fan, KB. Shout out to KB. He tunes in quite often. And just if Bayern decide to let him go, he'll come to us because of the Champions League. Maybe. And also there's the Ten Hag link, and also there's ex-players from Ajax who was there. So yes, if we both go in with an offer that Bayern Munich accepts, say if they accept an offer from both of us, one, you can also offer more wages, and you've got the short-term Champions League football. Yeah, I think there's loads of things that come into play why you maybe would choose Manchester United over Liverpool. I'm not really asked if we get Gravenberch or not because of the Man United links. Like, I'm just not too fussed on him. I think we can do better. But yeah, I think that's actually very likely. Depends how serious both clubs are. Jamie Phillips, big up to you, sir. So Klopp admits he wanted Endo for a while. So that's a big signing for Klopp to get the player he wanted. Yes, I can want a painting for a while, but the painting might not be available or the painting might not be needed because I'm happy with the painting I've already got. So you might want a player, but it never means you're going to pursue a player. Does that make sense, Jamie? So, and also, how long's a while? Is a while from the start of the window because James Milner got forced out the club from the owners, which is not a Klopp decision because Klopp wanted to keep James Milner. So he's referenced Endo as the Milner replacement. He wanted to keep James Milner. So it doesn't really make sense for him to go out and get Endo pre-James Milner if he's already got a James Milner. Does that make sense, Jamie? So I think when he says a while, I think he's talking about from when Milner left. And when I think he says that he rates him, I think he means it. I think he highly rates Endo because he highly rated Milner. So to be a replacement for him is quite insane. So yeah, Jamie, I think that's the sort of in-depth context of what he was talking about there. Does that make sense? Call me Pappy. Big up to you, sir. He says, I don't rate Gravenberch. I really hope that we don't go in for him. He's not the caliber that we are looking for. Always wanted Kimmich. Now, there's a lot of problems with Kimmich. Let's dive into those problems. Wages, we're not going to acquire. Second of all, he's the captain of Bayern Munich, I believe, which means he's not going to want to leave Bayern Munich and probably want to solve the issues going there. Champions League football, we haven't got that over Bayern. Wages, we're not going to offer him more than what Bayern offer him. The transfer fee, we're probably not going to meet a fee that we're happy with. So overall, I think we could find a transfer fee, but I don't think we would. And overall, I don't think Bayern want to sell. So I think there's a lot of complications with Gravenberch. So it's just hard to hold the club to, with Kimmich. So it's hard to hold the club to any fault for not getting Kimmich. You can hold them for fault for Caicedo or Lavia or these players, but Kimmich, I don't think we can be upset that we can't get him. But I do understand that's the caliber we should be able to buy. But again, Jurgen Klopp said in his own words, as a normal club, it is hard to keep up with other teams. That was near enough word for word. The normal club, that actually came out of his mouth. The rest of it was just like, we can't do what other teams do in a generalized sense. So yeah, that's where I struggle to think, okay, are we even going in for these big name targets, or are we even trying? So yeah, bro. Thank you for the super chat, though, sir. And by the way, 680 people in the stream. Smash a like and give me feedback. Let me know if you like this content. And if you want me to do more reactions going forward, then let me know. If you offer a thirsty man a drink of water, I could do with a drink of water. My lips are dry at that moment, fam. He is appreciative. However, this does not mean he doesn't want champagne. Wow, Liam. That sounded biblical. That sounded very, very wise. You seem like a man of wisdom. That was a beautiful, beautiful quote. Chat, get the W spam for this quote right here. Exactly. So a thirsty man will still take a drink of water. But you're telling me he doesn't want to have a night on the champagne. Some nice, fancy, expensive champagne. Chat, come on. Joe Gomez needs introspection and improvement. Do you mean inspection? I'm not too sure. Kanate and Matip have surpassed them. Even Curtis Jones is considered ahead of him in the number 6 role. Is he committed to the career? I think he's committed to his career. I just don't think he's as good after his injuries, Arthur. I think that's his main problem. Liverpool system, gegenpress, requires energetic players. James, did you notice that our peak came when all of our players were energy peaked? So we need energetic and athletic players to replace old players. Disagree. I think Jurgen Klopp's trying to transition more to a possession-based team that still has energetic players. But I agree. It's good to have a balance of players on the ball and then a balance of players who are energetic, kind of like Manchester City, which we've also had in the past. So I see what you're saying. I think Jurgen Klopp's tried to transition the system for quite a while, and it just hasn't worked out for him yet, or he hasn't quite been successful in that regard. I wanted to see Jamie's comment as well. I think he said the owners didn't want him because of his age, but Klopp mentioned he wanted him for a long time, but didn't need him. I didn't see the point where Klopp said the owners didn't want Endo. It was Milner directly who said that Milner said he wanted to stay, and Milner also said that Klopp wanted him to stay. So that was definitely the owners who forced him out the club, like 100%, even through Milner's words. And it's not like a journalist who's reporting James Milner's words. He said this on the interview post his final game at Anfield. And he was talking about how he's really happy to stay and he's devastated to leave and all this stuff. So the James Milner thing was definitely an ownership decision. But if you're referencing to Endo being too old, then, I mean, it's the club's fault for letting go of James Milner. You know what I mean? Shout out to Kasai. He says, Klopp is an enabler. Dropping standards. I'm done. Okay, then, so you're saying, because Klopp is saying things like, we are a normal club and we can't compete with other teams. Is that more him being an enabler, or is that just him accepting we don't have the resources that other teams do? However, I love this club. I love where I am, and I want to do the best for this club. Therefore, even through ownership who lack resources, I want to try and do the best. And until they say I am no longer the best, then that is when I'm going to try and... Until then, I'm going to try and put my maximum efforts in. I don't agree too much with this. I appreciate the super chat, and everyone has their own point of view. I think calling him an enabler, you're saying like, okay, he needs to come out and speak against the owners and he needs to do this. I don't think that's productive in many ways. And I think the owners could easily turn around to Klopp and say, well, if you're not happy with what we're giving you, we're not forcing you to stay here. You know what I mean? I don't think he sits there and just completely... I think everybody knows Jurgen Klopp wants players. He wanted Caicedo. It's not Jurgen Klopp's fault that we didn't get Caicedo. He wanted Lavia. It wasn't his fault we didn't get Lavia. That was a negotiation problem. That was a structure problem that comes from beyond Jurgen Klopp. If you have a problem with his tactics, fine. If you think that the players are still world class and Klopp isn't getting the best out of them, fine. That's now a reason to be definitely angry at Jurgen Klopp. But calling him an enabler and saying... or implying he's maybe a fault for a lot of things that's happened this transfer window because he's being given more control, which I'm still skeptical about. It just sounds quite insincere to me, you know what I mean? Even someone tried to use the excuse like, oh, Michael Edwards left because Jurgen Klopp forced him out. The excuses are getting a bit embarrassing now, guys. Like, I'm not even trying to be an ultimate Klopp defender, even though my personal preference is knowing that he's the best man for the club right now. But yeah, when you're saying things like he forced Michael Edwards out, which just is not true at all, yeah, it becomes desperate now. It's like you're trying to find any reason to slate the man where there's usually a combative response. What happened to you guys, the targets before the whole Lavia conversation? Why can't you go back to them rather than Endo? Well, you need to establish, okay, what is Endo? Is Endo coming in to be a starter? Because you're probably referencing players like Thuram and Kone, who we were linked for or linked with previous to Lavia and Caicedo. Well, none of them were sixes. And we've got Soboslai and McAllister, who are now eights. So we don't really need, or we're not as in need for a number 8. Endo, we questioned, is he a Fabinho replacement or is he a Milner replacement? Klopp directly in today's press conference referenced Endo as a Milner replacement, which means if he's a Milner replacement, we're still looking to get a CDM. So I don't think that it's a case of we got Endo and that's the solution. I think Endo was to replace another midfielder opposed to Fabinho, if that makes sense, buddy. Managers never bite the hand that feeds them publicly. Don't know why people expect Klopp to have a go at the board. Bang on, bro. Bang on. There's nothing productive that comes out of it. He comes out and speaks against the board, and then he gets 1 or 2 days worth of praise from Liverpool fans, and then now everybody knows that the club is fucked in an internal situation. It's nothing but what reporters will be asking him in the dressing room. It now creates this, in the press conferences, it now creates discontent in the dressing room amongst the players and the manager and all these things. Because if Jurgen Klopp comes out and speaks about the owners, well, he's implying that the owners haven't gave him enough. And if the owners haven't gave him enough, that means the team isn't good enough. And if the team isn't good enough, then the team and the players are now going to take this personally, because now you're saying I'm not good enough. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing productive. In fact, I think there's a greater danger if Jurgen Klopp spoke about the owners, but it doesn't mean he can't have his personal wants. And it's not for him to go into FSG's bank account or have to try and steal the bank card behind the back and buying players. They need to offer him the money to get players. So unless we find definitive proof that Jurgen Klopp is turning down big names and big assets, which isn't true, because again, he literally spoke about Caicedo in a press conference. Come on. Like, he wanted Lavia. You now need to divert the blame from, okay, this is a Klopp problem more than it's an FSG problem. Get what I'm saying? Klopp's input on those negotiations was simply letting the players know about the project and how he would implement them in the squad. He's not the one sorting out the negotiation fees or the transfer. He's not a financial expert. And if he was doing that side of things, well, that's stupid from the club, because now you've got somebody who is not a financial expert controlling these things. Mez says, I think people will hear Klopp too literally sometimes. English is a second language. He doesn't always articulate himself perfectly as a result. I don't think there was anything too abnormally wrong things that you could have taken out of context in this press conference. But I do agree. A lot of things can be taken out of context for sure. That's not even a doubt, actually. Jurgen Klopp gets taken out of context all the time. King Mo, what do you disagree with, sir? Let me know what you disagree with and why you disagree. If Klopp does speak out, a civil war will break out. Well, it just creates internal, unneeded divide within the football club, which isn't necessary. James, have you seen the video where Klopp says, we really need you to Endo? I would go to war for the man if he asked. Bro, that's also an implication, like, we really need you. Like, we've been waiting for a player like you know what I mean? And he's saying that to Endo after being linked with Caicedo. The man is desperate. It's not even like a Jurgen Klopp thing. And don't sit there and say Jurgen Klopp doesn't want players, because that's just insincere. Klopp wants players. You can see he wants players. He's desperate for players. But because he's not calling out the ownership, some people have got a problem. And I don't think that works out. And I don't think it gets you what you think we're going to achieve. So he comes out and speaks against the owners. Okay, then, well, now... what does that just mean now they go and spend more money? No. Like... unintelligent people will still remain unintelligent after a circumstance like that. It doesn't change anything. Our first 11 has never been a problem under Klopp. It's the lack of investment of depth. That's always been the case. It's been the case since Klopp got us to our first Champions League final, where Adam Lallana replaced Mohamed Salah as the backup right winger. Are you mad? Like, that's wild to me. Even like Ben Doak, a 17-year-old Ben Doak, who I rate, but he's still 17 and he's still got minimal experience on the football pitch. And he was only in the youth academy last year, and he's the solution. If in Klopp's eyes, Salah is tired and he needs to take him off, I disagreed with the decision against Chelsea. But if he needs to do that, how come his only solution's Ben Doak? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, an attack isn't even our problem. We don't even mention attackers because we've got so many other issues in every other department. So yeah, like, besides left backs and goalkeepers, and then you can even say left wing and striker now, I think they're the only positions we've got solidified in both starting and depth as well. And see the way Klopp changes these players sometimes. Imagine if he had those options in at least most positions, if not all. Liverpool have lost more backroom staff since Michael Edwards left, and were never really given a real reason why Buvac left. Yeah, Buvac left prior to a time before we were really successful, so I'm not even too focused on the Buvac thing. But listen, things change behind the scenes of football clubs all the time. But yes, it seems like that we're going through quite an overhaul at the moment, and there's a few uncertainties at the club, which maybe could lead to some of these departures. Do you get what I'm saying? Triggered Inacio's 40 million release clause would have been such a good deal. His new release clause is 60 million and expensive. And if we really wanted Inacio, we would have triggered. Yeah, we're not getting a centre-back, guys. We're not getting a centre-back. It's not in our plans, and we want 2 midfielders before we go out and get a centre-back. And I explained the depth of the centre-backs before. We might not agree with our depth, but we've still got depth. Gomez is still a Premier League winner in a way. Matip is still a Champions League and a Premier League winner in a way. So, like, we've still got depth of people who have been successful, and I think through Klopp's lens, he doesn't think they're finished. Coutinho, or maybe he's fearful of letting them go in case we don't replace them. Just an idea. Klopp needs to threaten to leave if he had any guts. Okay, so what does this achieve? Big up to you, sir, and big up to your super chat. What does that achieve? Okay, so now he plays his card. Okay, now I'm threatening to leave. Well, FSG say, well, we've got you under contract, so we don't want you to leave. So now we've got a bit of a problem, don't we? Okay, now let's go with the scenario that FSG agree to Jurgen Klopp's wishes, right? Okay, you want to go? Fine, we'll let you go. Now what happens? Okay, so now Klopp's bluff has just probably ended us with a worse manager, and then we've still got the same owners. So I'm just wondering what the goal achieved here was. And if you can tell me what it is, I'll listen, brother. That's a funny fucking comment. Chat, if you're not laughing hysterically at that, you're funny, you know. You've got no sense. That's a funny comment. That's made my day. Like, Klopp, I am leaving. Okay. I don't think FSG want him to leave, which is why they'll probably say, well, you're under contract, so you're not fucking going anywhere. I get the point. I'll be honest with you, sir. You're saying it's to back him. I don't think that'll be the I don't think Jurgen Klopp says, I'm going to go if you don't spend more money. I don't think FSG come out and say, well, we're going to give you £100 million in that case. So they've already tried to buy a player for 100 million. So now we're going to offer you 200 million pounds in transfer fees to stay. I just don't think that ends up being achieved from your plan. The line I liked was that Klopp said, we don't make excuses about money. We'll just go for it. Again, exactly, which means he's not necessarily involved in the financial aspect of things, and he knows that we are financially inept in comparison to other teams, which just in turn creates a more difficult window and a more difficult prospect to sign more players. Know what I'm saying? Big up to Panascouse, my G. Welcome to the stream, brother. Good to see you as always. Angel Polanco, he says, Klopp doesn't even need oil investments. If he had the ironies in Liverpool, you guys would have won. You guys would have one Prem and another champs. Listen, when Klopp gets the players that he needs, that gets guaranteed results, in my opinion. I think that's proven that in the past, you know what I mean? I think that when he gets the players he wants and all the players that he wants and a squad big enough, he does well. FSG don't buy over 30 players and no sell on value, but we don't sell anyone for money anyway. Exactly. That's why the Milner thing was just ridiculous. We probably would have been better off keeping Milner. But I do think Endo will bring a bit of energy to the game. And it all remains to be seen. It'll be tough to say he's definitely going to be better than James Milner, but you know, I think he's got promise there. I do think he's got promise there. The bare minimum we can do is back the team as of right now, as well as the manager leading them. We'll never understand people trying to divide the fan base and trying to be edgy. Well, I think a lot of people are just genuinely worried. But I don't agree with dividing the fan base. If you're FSG in, I disagree with that. But I also understand we've both got a common goal to want the best for this football team. So it's not like you're FSG out, you're a scumbag. I don't agree with that. I just don't think you're right. And I don't think your methodology to success is accurate, and I don't think it gets us success. So I oppose your view, but I don't oppose the club you support. We both want the same thing. Does that make sense? Ten Hag called out the Glazers. Called out the Glazers and got 400 million in 12 months. FSG hate any negative press. No, I disagree. I don't know where. So context is important here. So what did Ten Hag say about the owners, and did he threaten to leave the club in any way? Did he say the club don't spend enough money? Because that would be inaccurate. Or did he just come out and say we need players, which Jurgen Klopp has said? Jurgen Klopp has said we need players. Ten Hag said we need players for Man United circumstances. There's no real difference. The only difference is Glazers spend way more money than FSG. So even though you're not happy with the Glazers still spend, based on volume and money, they still spend top 3, top 4, or outspend about 17 teams in the league at least. I'd even argue they outspend 18 teams in the league. So Manchester United is still top 3 richest clubs. So it's completely different scenarios. But what did Ten Hag say directly? Was it an aggressive way? Did he come out and say the Glazers aren't doing enough? Because I don't think he said that, because I would have heard about that and I haven't heard about it. Or did he just say, I need players, which is exactly what Jurgen Klopp has done? I don't think Ten Hag's influence, or I don't think Ten Hag made Glazers fear him to a point where they spent 400 million. I think that was always the case. The same way prior to Ten Hag, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got Ronaldo, Varane, and Jadon Sancho, which was still insane amounts of fucking money. It's not like that the Man United weren't backed financially and then they became back. That's very disingenuous. Like, yeah, not true at all. Hey, James Love from Straya. Big up to you, sir. He says, I think we're working on Decore and a centre-back for the long term. Homegrown, we could have work on Antonio Silva. Don't know who he is. Younger might be a homegrown eventually. Possibly, my G. Very, very possible. What happens if Virgil van Dijk gets injured? I suggest get a decent centre-back. I think we just use Matip or Gomez as the backup. And if they're not playing well, then we'll probably utilise Nat Phillips, who has always been, guaranteed. Glazers don't spend money. It's all money that the club brings in. They refuse to invest any money into United personally. FSG do the exact same thing, except we don't even spend all of the money that we make money generated as well. You get what I'm saying? We make a lot more money. Neither do Glazers, but you guys are still outspending 17 or 18 other teams in the league is the point. So yes, you might not be spending like in the past 5-10 years, besides Chelsea and City, I imagine you've spent more money than absolutely everybody. If we're going to go based off the last year or two, okay, Arsenal have caught up a little bit. But overall, there's no way that you guys are not spending or anything. Maybe in comparison to what you could make, fine. But also, it's a risky game when they start investing their own money in, because then you start playing about with FFP and stuff. So that's not really realistic to want from the Glazers. The same way we can't expect FSG just to implode all of their money into the club. But if they can spend more based on how much money is generated, great. But they don't even do that. So that's our problem. And again, it's different for United with the Glazers because you guys get players, you know what I mean? It's disingenuous to say you don't spend money. Antonio Silva is going to cost us 100 million. Unfortunately, he's a top centre-back, though. Yeah, we won't get him then. We won't get him. Who does he play for, Tom? Is he any good on what league is he in? Is he established? Mario Lemina from Wolves is a beast, LFC. No, I'm all good. This guy seems meaty to me. He used to play for Juventus, no? Yeah, I'm all good. Or was that Lamar? I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm getting it wrong in my head. Klopp says, why don't we think about money? Our next signing will just wait there. Klopp said, why won't think about money? Our next signing will just sign them. So that's a good sign regarding to Corey, possibly. So it's one of those out of nowhere type transfers, a Randy Orton RKO out of nowhere, you know what I'm saying? I think Gravenberg, Kone, being followed up. See, I don't even know some of these names that we're being linked with. Oh, does he play for Benfica? Fair dues. One homegrown spot left. Next season, Thiago leaves, letting them take his spot in the non-homegrown positions. Very fair. Very, very fair. Was their best centre-back last season at just 18 years old. Oh, fuck me. Oh, yeah, he sounds promising then. He's someone who will probably have to need to look into. Does the rise in their original capital due to the increase in the club's value not mean they should spend some of their own money? Possibly. Very possible. But they're not going to do that because they've got other sports investments. They won't feel the need to do that. And if they don't feel the need to, then you're not going to be getting them to spend more money than what's required of them. If they just need top four and they think they've done enough to get top four, because let's be honest, the league is not the ambition right now. It's to get back into Champions League. That's exactly what it is. You can tell by the business that we're doing. Otherwise, we'd be doing more and going for higher caliber players. Like the time where we really had our most impressive window was when we were trying to break into being a consistent top four team. We've became that. And I don't think they realise that we're slowly going out of that phase, even though we've already finished in a Europa League position as soon as last season. James, which if you could take one, would you take Kone or Decore or Lavia if available? Let's remove Lavia because he's not available. I'd have taken Lavia as my first choice all the time. In fact, no, Kone would be my first choice all time. he's a quality player and he can do a job in the 8 and the 6, in my opinion. I think he's the best out of the 3. I think he's got the highest ceiling out of the 3. Then it would have been Lavia. And because we removed away from Kone first, that was why I started going on the Lavia train. And Decore would be my number 3 option out of those 3. But I'd take them all. I'd take them all because we need players. But anyway, chat, that's been the conclusion on Klopp's press conference. We've spoke about Endo, how we compared him to Milner, and that he's a big fan of the signing. We also talked about the fact that it's harder for Liverpool to attract players because of the current climate of the market, and that because we're a normal club and based on resources, we're not going to... it's difficult to make the signings that we want to make at the times that we want to make them. You reference things like agents and fees and all this stuff. So... a lot of issues, still a few complications, but overall, we can probably expect to see a couple more players coming through the door. At least one, I'd expect, but will it be good enough? That's what remains to be seen. Anyway, big up to everyone who super chatted. Let me always give credit to people who super chatted. I missed out on this one as well. Shout out to Phil. Love your content, James. You talk so much sense. Only if me mother thought the same. It'd be so much better. Big up everyone. Smash those likes and all that. Big up to Phil. Big up to what does this say? Cundinho, big up to you, sir. Kosai, big up to you. Call me Pappy, big up to you. Leave a comment once it's done. You know, it helps out with the algorithm. And let me know on any feedback if you want to see this more often and what I can do to improve. But anyway, without further ado, guys, it's nice talking to you. And I hope you all have a lovely fucking day, mate. Peace.